It is one of the worst kept secrets of America's intelligence agencies, mind control, and it is part of America's great deception and among the many lies that are fed to the public on a daily basis. The Illuminati have decided to camouflage their actions with the creation of normalcy to avert any suspicions. One example of something which appears to have happened naturally is the O.J. Simpson case. This case was planned and based on previous murder scenarios which had been successfully covered up. O.J. Simpson was indeed a CIA mind control slave, and the entire Simpson case was concocted as an elaborate effort to cause racial tensions. Now, the CIA, the mob, and the Illuminati have all had their dirty hands involved in this entire affair. In fact, the O.J. Simpson case, it reeks of manipulation and planning. Joey Ippolito Jr. was both CIA and mob, and Ippolito at one time lived in Hollandale, Florida, a mob housing subdivision which was protected by a police force which was run by the mob. He has helped run drugs and wet operations for the combination, which is an organization that interconnects with the Illuminati. O.J. Simpson's friend, Cowlings, worked for Joey Ippolito, as well as for O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson was also working with Ippolito. Simpson distributed cocaine for Joey Ippolito and the CIA and the mob. Simpson's lawyer, Robert Kardashian, said on TV that the trial reeked of government corruption. And Simpson's lawyer, Johnny Cochran, was a civil rights attorney who later became tied to the CIA and the mob. Here are the facts. Fact number one, Nicole Simpson was a major cokehead, and her coke was supplied by OJ via his mob connections. Also, Nicole's next door neighbor was Carl Colby, and he was the son of the former CIA director, Bill Colby. Fact number two, Colby's wife and his kids have been subject to mind control, and Colby's wife even testified in O.J. Simpson's trial, but she was addressed as Miss Bowe rather than by her real name. Fact number three, O.J. Simpson's mother worked for the California State Mental Hospitals Corporation for 30 years, and many state mental hospital workers have also had children who have been programmed. Not to mention what she must have seen in those 30 years in terms of different various celebrities coming in and out being programmed via electroshock therapy and all sorts of other methods that have been used over the years in mental hospitals. Fact number four, when one of the jurors in Simpson's case, Tracy Hampton, had her mind control programming go haywire, she began staring for long periods at a blank TV screen and hearing voices. She had to be dismissed. Now, interestingly, during the Simpson trial, Judge Ito gave Joe McGinnis the best front row seat that a journalist could get. And Joe McGinnis was the controversial author who wrote a book covering up the McDonald-Fort Bragg drug smuggling case. The McDonald-Fort Bragg drug smuggling case involved the Illuminati drug smuggling operation within the U.S. military during the Vietnam War. And you can see a fraction of this cover-up in the movie American Gangster, where they show how Frank's brother, who was in the army in the Vietnam War, was able to get the drugs in via the caskets of dead servicemen. It was bigger than just Frank Lucas. It was there was no way a black man was able to do that without the government cooperation. Facts. Just know that. The manipulation of history by those in power has been covered up by perpetrators ever since. You can look at an article. It's in the September 11, 1967, volume 201 The number 11 issue. How interesting that this is the number 11. We'll go into that in another video. But anyway, this is the Journal of American Medical Association article, the September 11, 1967, volume 201, number 11 issue. The article was submitted to the magazine from 3 CIA doctors, Dr. Mark, Dr. Sweet, and Dr. Irvin. And all three claimed that riots are caused by brain disease. Now, while the article is correct in their subpoint, that is only a small percentage of the underprivileged urban dwellers that do indeed participate in many of the riots. So the article's thesis obviously is a slide to prevent people from catching on that the small number of the people who create riots might be under mind control and might have some other motivation simply beyond being brain disease. Any deception, whether it's an exaggeration or an understatement of the elite's capabilities, is considered a useful deception for the Illuminati double agents to spread. Now remember, these are CIA doctors, so they're only going to give you half truths. But I'm going to give you the whole truth. And the whole truth is this, and it's going to link right back to this article where they give you only half the truth. There is some truth to that, and I'm going to tell you what it is. But know this, the U.S. federal government has been deceiving the citizenry for many decades regarding the engineering chemical assault known as chemtrails. Now, not only has the government continued down this road of deception, it has ramped up its many and varied initiatives to ensure that the chemtrail genie does not escape from the bottle. Because once it does, they know that it cannot be put back into the bottle, and that there will be many unhappy people as a result. And I'm saying to you people, in the summertime when everybody wants to be out and hanging on the stoop and in the street and in the park and in the club, be careful of those chemtrails. There's a difference between the contrail, which is the smoke that naturally follows these big jets and it comes out of the engine. Chemtrails are deliberately placed chemical weaponry. It doesn't necessarily have to kill you, but it can affect you. It can make you sick. It can also kill you over time, and it can also affect our brains. And these things are unleashed on the public. And you may notice that in certain areas, the chemtrailing is more than in others. So what I'm saying to you is that I believe in the case of the various communities where people seem to just go crazy, I believe that there's something in the air, whether it's in the air, whether it's in the water, whether it's even in the food that we eat. Now, I want to share a little secret with some of you. And this is back to the government mind control, but it's something personal about me that I want to let you know. I want to start it off by saying, be careful of assisted living programs and government housing. Everything is not always what it seems. For those of you who've been following my videos, you know that there was a period of time when I was homeless, when I was sleeping on the subway, and I was living in the shelters, and I was looking to find a place to call my own because I had not had one for many years. I was homeless. So I jumped on the opportunity to get this beautiful place located in the East Village in Manhattan that I could call my own. And I began decorating it to my taste and getting all the things that I wanted and that I had missed in my previous life when I had money. And so I just slowly got it together. But I'm going to tell you something about this place. This is an assisted living facility. And it's specifically chosen for people who have chronic homelessness, who may have had mental disabilities in their lives, and also for people who have had problems with addiction or incarceration and so forth. And as such, there are certain rules and things. As a matter of fact, I had to go through an extensive interview. It was about 2 hours long, And then I also had to go through mounds of paperwork in order to get in here. And what I'm saying is that a lot of these things, they are set up in order to, one, monitor people that they consider might be a danger to society, because there are many ex-cons in this building. There are many, like I said, released mental patients in this building. And there are also others who have just, psychological problems that they may have not been in the hospital for. But my point is that there's a lot of stuff that also goes on within this place that leads me to believe that it is some type of research facility. Now, why do I say that? Well, we are all assigned what is called a case manager. However, and let me just break that down to you. Supposedly, this is someone who just helps you when you need help in your little life problems. But if you are an adult and you are sane enough to be out among public, then why do you need someone to manage your life? And I believe that in concert with these people, they're more likely handlers than they are people to help you. They're more to keep you under control. I remember, and I will never forget it, a instance that I had once when I had to confront my doorman about a missing package. And the woman who was on duty that day, the door woman, was this nasty individual who just came at me just very unprofessionally. And so I told her, I says, look, I don't need all that attitude. I just want to know, why would you just leave my package where anyone can pick it up when the protocol is for you to keep it behind the desk until I arrive to pick it up? And so she promptly said to me, as if I was in some type of institution, oh, let me call your case manager because this is getting out of control. Okay, that was one clue. The other thing that I noticed is that there are several areas in my apartment with holes and gadgetry that doesn't necessarily fit within the scheme of a regular apartment. So I've often wondered what these holes contain. Do they contain cameras or some type of recording equipment? And there's cameras all throughout the hallways. Now, I get that. That's good. I feel safe and comfortable with that. But then there's also something else. Very frequently, they find excuses to give us parties. So there's either a breakfast going on, or there's the Valentine's Day party. They had the Halloween party. They had the Christmas party. They have parties every month for people born in that month. And all this seems very nice, like, wow, how great, they do all these things for us. But I have found that after eating certain foods, not to mention that the food that's served at the parties, some of it doesn't taste the way the regular food of that type would taste. It tastes as if something is in it. So I've actually told them, please do not call me for any more events because, I prefer not to go, and I'm trying to lose weight and whatever I needed to say to get out of it, which all happens to be true. But the fact is that if you're putting your family into a nursing home, or if you yourself are jumping on the boat of these assisted living facilities, or even Section 8 types of arrangements, I'm going to tell you that in applying and getting accepted and taking Section 8 housing, you are not considered a regular tenant as those who are not Section 8. These people, they have the right to come and invade your privacy. They will come and they have the right to monitor who you have in your house if you have other people living there. And I also believe that in the case of the assisted facilities, that they may or may not be monitoring you, even without your knowledge. You have to be really careful of that. And in the nursing homes where your loved ones are, you have to also be mindful that these are strangers who are paid to do a job. And I don't believe everyone is a part of the program. I believe just like They choose who live here. They also choose who works in these places, and they get loyal people who do exactly whatever they are bid to do, because they need their salary, they need to feed their families. So if they tell them, look, I want you to put Thorazine in the meals so that the tenants will be calm and not stir up, then they're going to do it. Or they may even be doing it without their knowledge. It could be mixed in with the sugar, or it could be mixed in with the adobo, or whatever ingredient. And so, because I can tell you, there are times I wake up and I feel funny, I feel different. And those of you who watch my videos, you also know that sometimes I go weeks without doing a video. And it's because I simply don't feel like it. And then there are other times when, and I've attributed some of this to my illness because I am sick, but then I also notice that some days I am so much sicker than others. And then I get new variations of my illness. Now there's the crippling I've had for years, so I'm kind of used to that, and I don't feel that was brought on here, but I have new developments since I've been here. I've had, really significant changes in my body since I've lived here. And I believe that not only do they know what I do, because they've thoroughly investigated me before they let me live here, but I believe that they are mindful of my content on my video channel, and through whoever they get their funds from, I am being manipulated and monitored in my activities. And the world is so advanced now that there are medications that can actually make you do or not do things. Just like there are medications that can halt your libido, your sex drive, and there are medications that can cause you to have suicidal thoughts. There are medications that can actually even change your appearance. There are medications that can bloat you and make you fat. And there are also medications that can drain you and suck the life out of you and have you look like the Walking Dead. But the mind control is not a joke, folks. You have to be very mindful of your life. And sometimes what looks like a great deal is not always a great deal. And I'll tell you this last thing. I don't know if those of you who followed me for years may remember a video I did years ago called I Was Bitten by an Illuminati Rat. And many people did not understand it. And I didn't want to go into detail in the video. I kind of made it as a parody because I wanted to wait until I was not homeless before I elaborated on what I was talking about. But I got bitten by a rat in a city shelter. That was one of the reasons I wound up sleeping on the subways and not going back into a shelter, because I was terrified after that. And I'm still traumatized, and I never won the lawsuit. The city found a way to get themselves out of it. And the Philadelphia insurance company just basically ignored me because the shelter turned out to, although it was authorized by DHS, which is a city-run agency, they were indeed a private shelter. So just like you have private prisons, homelessness has become a business also, people. And this particular shelter was a private shelter owned by a private entity. And long story short, one of the main reasons that I feel that I am also under some type of government surveillance and also possibly living in a research facility is, why would you bring a woman who has been traumatized by rodents into a building that is overflowing with rodents? So as fancy smancy as they try to make this place appear, and the fact that it's in what's considered a prime real estate neighborhood, I lived here for years with mice running about. No matter how clean and immaculate I kept my place because I developed a form of OCD from living in the subways. I just can't stand dirt in any form. I bathed often during the day. I'm always bending down, picking up just a speck of dust, and I'm always scrubbing, and I've got tons of bleach and all sorts of other things because I'm terrified of dirt and uncleanliness from having lived around it and being forced to live around it. And so imagine my grief when for an entire year and a half I had to watch mice running back and forth. And then the super, who obviously is on the payroll for this place, every time that he had to come in here 3 times before he finally covered every single hole that the mice were coming out of. And as you know, I can't walk and I'm disabled, so I had to actually painfully get on my knees and look to see where were these things coming out of, because every time he left, within a day or two, I could see another one running about. And so when I finally, to my detriment, got on the floor because I almost couldn't get back up again to see where the holes were, when he came the 3rd time, I was finally able to show him, no, you missed this one, you missed that one, you missed this one. And I believe it was deliberate. I believe that I was forced to endure this in order for them to do some type of experiment as to my assessing my state of mind from having been bitten, because they knew that. That was part of my interview, and I had the documentation of the injuries and all of that. And one of my first questions was, did they have a rodent problem? And they said no. So they lied. So I don't want to get into my issues, but it's an overall thing, people, that I'm trying to tell you. Be careful. It's not always a deal. The one thing, the property manager, he had the audacity to say to me when I mentioned to him the mice problem. He said to me, I couldn't believe it came out of his mouth. He's like, oh, Miss Scott, were you complaining? But as I recall, when you moved here, you were very grateful. Grateful? Are you kidding? I pay rent. That has nothing to do with grateful. I was grateful to get out of the shelter, but if I knew I was moving in a place where I was going to be traumatized by mice, I would have stayed on the streets until something else came along. So they assume that the homeless are so grateful to not be homeless that you'll put up with anything. And then the other thing, too, that I've noticed lately is if they think they can get over on you, they do. Now, I pay my rent. They have an online rent payment system that you can use. It's a rent portal where you go in and you put your banking information, and when they do these recertifications, they're all in your business. So if you're making any kind of decent money, if you've got a YouTube channel or anything you're making off the books, be careful with going into these types of facilities, because they stay in your business and they use it to try to swindle you out of more money. Because I noticed that when I pay my rent and my bank shows me that the payment went through, all of a sudden I'm getting a notice from them that the payment didn't go through. And I'm like, what the hell is this? The bank shows me that it did go through. So unless you actually physically go to court with them, you cannot prove it, because it's your word against theirs. So you can either double pay the rent, and because it's based on your income, like I'm disabled, so it's based on my disability income. However, if you've already paid the amount, you don't want to pay it again for the same month. It doesn't matter that it's not that much. What matters is that you have an agreement, you have a contract. This is my lease says I pay this amount every month, so why are you double charging me? Double dipping is what it's commonly called. And they do this on elderly people, they do it on people with mental disabilities. They get over on people. And this is how these organizations and these private 501c3s get so wealthy. And their CEOs are living in the Hamptons and flying jets on the weekends and helicopters from here to there because they're making money off the misfortunate and the misfortune of others. So I'm not going to expound on this anymore. I'm going to just say to you that may those who are responsible for crimes against humanity be forewarned. Because Proverbs 16:12 says, it is an abomination to kings to do evil, for the throne is established by righteousness. And then Proverbs 16:18 goes on to say, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And I believe that at some point, OJ's programming broke down when he realized what they were trying to do to him. That's why he was on the road so long, so he could try to get his mind back. And he didn't know that Cowlings was actually part of the problem, not part of the solution, because Cowlings wasn't going to take him anywhere except right back where he went, and that's what he did. But that's how a lot of the handlers are. They come across as friends and comrades when actually they're working for the very people that you're trying to escape. So be careful who you include in your battles, because sometimes these very same people, they're not battling for you, they're battling against you. That's why I also believe that they finally were able to lock OJ up for good. I believe they somehow, when he was incarcerated, they put another chip in him that caused him to come out and do other crimes, like what they consider crimes. He stole back his own property from people that had it, and as a result, he was given a sentence. But the sentence wasn't for what he did. It was for breaking the programming. When they seen that this strong man could not stay programmed, they found a way to get him back in for a very long time. And so now they can do what they want. Because I don't know if you guys know, but in prison also, they feed the prisoners drugs without their knowledge. Some of them are quite aware that they're being drugged, but others don't know. They give them drugs to take away their libido, because they want to cut down on the prison rapes. And they also give them drugs. In a lot of cases, many of the violent prisoners are given drugs without their knowledge to keep them calm. So these are all types of mind control drugs. People, I need you guys to pray for me, and I for you, because even though, like I said, I'm very grateful to be not homeless, it's especially in the winter. The worst part of being homeless in the winter is being in the cold. But I'm also very aware that I am not safe, and I am not 100% me. And between my physical maladies and this knowledge, I may need to move on. There may come a time when I need to let this go and just disappear. Go back, fly under the radar. One thing about being homeless, and many homeless people will tell you, is that when you're out in the universe and you have no paper trails and no connections to yourself, it is a freedom unlike any other. Then you are truly free. It's not the ideal life, but sometimes the ideal life is not the ideal life. All right, I'm going to end with prayer. Lord, I've shared a lot this day, probably more than I should have. But I have to go according to my spirit, Lord, because my spirit is ingrained in you. It is you to whom I answer. I do not answer to these people where I live. I do not answer even to those who tune into my channel and listen. I answer to you, Lord, and I feel that you want me to let the people know. I know that you have given me this divine assignment in order to teach the people who do not know. Many live in darkness, Lord. There are many who are suffering right now, and they feel that their suffering would be over if they did this thing or that thing. And so many things come like Pandora's box in this beautiful packaging, and we assume that it's going to be great once we open it, only to open it and find that it is worse than what we are already dealing with, Lord. So I ask you to give the people discernment, those who don't have it. Help them to see that everything that glitters is not gold, is not platinum, is not a diamond. There is much, much, much in this world that we cannot see with our physical eye. And once we become immersed in it, it's sometimes too late. So I ask you in Jesus' mighty, mighty name, Lord, to keep the people safe, to keep the people from ingesting these fumes that are put out into the air to control communities and to make people crazy. And it's bad enough. People are doing it to themselves via these drug and alcohol abuse. But now the government, and it's not anything new, they've long been experimenting on the people. Help the people to open their eyes and to see what is going on, to use their common sense when they see these things coming and they hear the roar of planes, to get themselves and their children and their families inside and to close the windows and seal them so that the fumes cannot come in. Because, Lord, this is a detriment. It's a detriment to society. It's a detriment to people, and it's counterproductive. And the wicked one is using every single device that he can to try to hurt the people, to kill off the people. They want to get rid of the old people. They want to get rid of the feeble. They want to get rid of a lot of the people who are not like them, Lord, so that there can be more resources for them. These are a wicked, selfish people, Lord. And I ask you in Jesus' mighty name to bring them to their judgment. I know, Lord, that we will reign in the end. But in the meantime, Lord, keep us wise and keep us sane, and keep me sane long enough to continue to give your messages, Lord. I ask and I beg in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for the subscribers. Thank you for those who check in. Thank you for the ability to make the videos. Amen.